This year when it was time to plant the garden, well, we decided to plant 2 gardens. This is our dedicated only tomato garden with about 230, 240 plants in it. We have another garden over there, but in this video we're going to be showing you how we got our dedicated only tomato garden planted.
Watch us get it planted.
Because this is a brand new garden space, there was a lot of work to get done before any planting could get started. First, we needed to break the ground on the garden space to get things going. To do this, we used the tractor with the cultivator attachment on it. We also amended the soil with a little bit of broken down manure to help to give the plants a good start. Then the ground was tilled and then finally furrowed up into hills, as you can see in the picture. After everything was prepped as far as the ground goes, then it was time to lay out the drip tape irrigation. This is the irrigation you can see in the picture, and it went pretty slick. It is new to us, so we're still learning about it, but one thing that we really like about the drip tape so far is it has predetermined spacing where the emitters, or where the water comes out essentially. And for this tomato garden, we went with 5-foot spacing between the points where the water comes out. Today when we started out, we brought the tomato plants over from the greenhouse with the truck. The first real task today was grouping each variety of tomato. They kind of tend to get mixed up in the greenhouse a little bit. We plant many varieties of tomatoes. This year, 51 kinds of tomatoes are going out into the garden. Certain varieties that we really like, we do multiple plants of the same kind, and some of the plants that we are trying out are something that we're really just trying out for the first time. Some of our favorite tomatoes that are going into the garden this year are Cherokee Purple, Bush Steak, Sun Gold, Sunrise Sauce, Pineapple, Old German, Mortgage Lifter, and all of the Chef's Choice series varieties. We're also trying out some new varieties to see if we like them. Some of these are Black Cherry, Abe Lincoln, Virginia Sweets, Cherokee Green, Super Sauce, and there's a lot more. It took us about 3 hours to get this whole planting process done, and of course, that doesn't include any of the prep.
Man, we're pretty tired after that. We are finally finished planting out our massive tomato garden. We have about, how many plants?
240.
About 240. I think it's a little bit less. We will know an official count soon.
To get it done, we laid out our drip tape first, which only took us about an hour. Very slick and easy, first time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we just turned the tape on for 5 minutes to show where the water was coming out on each spot, moved the tape out of the way, and then we dug out the necessary amount of soil to plant the tomatoes down every row. And then when we got done, put the tape back on, and you're on to the next row.
Yep, and we planted these. These are 5-foot spacing, which is the automatic spacing that we got on the drip tape. So it was really nice. We didn't have to punch emitters for each one, kind of like our other gardens irrigation. And then as we were going through and putting the tomatoes down, we did pinch off a bunch of lower leaves and we buried them in pretty deep. And then you might notice all these cups that we have out here. Those are to help us label everything for now. I'm going to go around in a minute and write down where everything is, and I make a big garden map. And the cups just kind of help us so we can go fast in the moment. Instead of needing to plant and then write, I can just go and do it all in one step right now. All right, we have one more row to plant. Let's go get it done. All right, so we're just getting the tape moved out of the way, just off to the side. And I don't know if you can see, but you can see exactly where it was, the water was turned on. Here, I'll move the camera a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. So we know exactly where to dig. Like, there's a spot right there, and then 5 feet later there will be a spot, and all the way down. He's just going to dig them out real quick with a pick. All right.
Right on the wet spot.
And our rows are nice and mounded, so he's just moving the dirt into the row, not into where we block, which is pretty nice. And it's nice and loose. If we tried to do this without tilling the garden first, it would be nearly impossible with our soil. Well, it would be possible, but it would be quite hard. While he's working on that, I'm just going to get our next basket of tomatoes, and I'm just going to cut off these lower leaves. I know some of these don't look super awesome, like look how wilty that one is, but we're going to pop it in the ground, and it will be just fine. Doing this ahead of time really helps us so we can pop them in the ground quickly and not stop to pinch off all these lower leaves as we're planting. Okay, let's get a couple more done here. And it helps me not get green fingers quite yet. I will get green fingers really soon for the season. That's probably my biggest complaint about growing so many tomatoes are all the green fingers. So here's our next basket. Just going down and cutting off these leaves. These are all the same variety here. It's pretty nice that these just came out of the greenhouse, so they're pretty much hardened off as far as the adjusting to the sunlight. Okay. Before we had the greenhouse, it was always a big transition to make sure they were hardened off enough to plant them out in the garden. It's really nice to not have to worry about that too much anymore. Okay. He's almost done with that row. I'm just going pretty far up the stem here on these, getting all these little lower leaves cut off. And as you can see in the time lapse, it's kind of a group effort for when we plant our tomatoes. Often I am the one who is organizing which varieties go where, and other people are the ones planting. I kind of like to plant them in certain places just so that they're grouped well together for when we go to pick them, like I did an entire 2 rows of just cherry tomatoes. That was on purpose. And then these are all of our Romas and sauce tomatoes on this end. On the far end, I did another one of our really favorite varieties. It's called bush steak. They're just nice little compact plants. And our wind comes from that direction, so I figured we'll just start out with a little bit of windbreak with those nice compact plants, because this garden does take quite a bit of wind. So these are all cut kind of like I like them. Some of the leaves are down in the bottom. Let's pull them out so they're not distracting. Alright, so I'm just checking that these are all the same variety. They are. These are called Roma VFA, and we're just going to go down the row and get them planted. To get them planted, I just pop them out of the cup, and then we lay them in here kind of sideways and put them right in. That one's done. Go to the next one. Try to bring these with me so I'm not going back and forth too many times. Oh, and I almost forgot. One of the most important things that I need to do is get a little soil in this. This has a variety name on it, so I'm just going to stick it right here at the beginning of the row, and then when I go back to label everything, I'll know that these are all Roma VFAs. Alright, so we just keep going down, get them all in. And now I start to stack my cups. We also reuse our cups every year. For a long time, we used to not reuse them and get new cups every year, and then we used to have this really awesome neighbor who is a gardener. He was in his 90s. He was older for sure, but he got out and he did everything by himself on his property. And one of the easy little tips that I picked up from him was save your start cups. Why not? Just cross out the name and write a new name. Okay. Just pop them out. Put it in there. So after we get these all in here, we're going to make sure we get the lines back on them. The ones behind me have the lines, the irrigation lines already back on them. We'll get the lines back on this one. And then in a couple of weeks, we will cage these. And that will be quite the process in itself, because we don't have this many cages made yet. So we're going to be making some more cages. And we make our cages out of concrete wire mesh, so they're pretty strong. They're about 5 feet tall. They take a lot of wind, and they hold up well when some of our plants get giant, and the fruit and the plants literally start to crush the tomato cage if we used anything chintzier, I guess, for lack of a better word. And in fact, we did used to use something chintzier. In the past, we made tomato cages out of horse fencing, and that worked for a long time, but they ended up getting pretty crushed, and they just don't hold up the same way as the concrete wire mesh. They tip over a lot easier. The way we made them so we could kind of like try to stack them to save space and I don't know. They weren't as sturdy and strong as the concrete wire mesh. So this is a new garden. You might notice I'm pulling out quite a bit of rocks. That's just going to be what we're going to be doing for a while, is picking out rocks. Okay. Now we are just going to put the line back on, and I have 4 more to plant, and we'll get some water on these. Another little trick that we kind of learned throughout our experience with getting these lines to stay in the right spot. So see this spot right here? That is where the water is going to come out. So sometimes as things get hot or cold, things expand and contract, or maybe the line gets bumped, or these have tomato cages on them, it gets windy and it blows the tomato cage over, and it kind of messes up the line. On the spots where you don't have an emitter, just putting a little dirt on top of it, that kind of helps keep it in place. Super easy. We used to use sticks to kind of stake it in there. Why not just use the dirt? Well, thanks for watching our video where we got our tomato garden all planted. Keep watching and stay tuned to our channel if you want to see how this grows throughout the summer. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and please consider liking it. Thanks so much for watching.